it
is
is
another
hard. It
Jackie.
is hard for us, like open
There's a
women, tall
Canadian.
queens, 6'1", 6 foot, and then
Yeah,
our open men friends like Josh, who's 5'11". It's terrible.
freaking fun. I actually think he's 5'10". He got knee surgery, so I think he actually went down to 5'10".
Ooh, you would think he would get knee
Josh
surgery to
Spurgeon let us
extend
know.
his legs. Why would he
Well,
want
you'd
to go
think.
shorter?
Well, because he's a guy and guys aren't that smart. They're just cute. They're like
Maybe he just
puppies.
wanted to be the same height as his Pookie Colton.
Oh, 5'10" besties? Cute. Well, that's
Yeah.
weird because then Aaron's definitely daddy with being 6'3". So, Miss Jackie, tell us who you are. So, I am sitting down with Jackie Rhodes. She is a pro strong. Are you a pro strong woman? Or
I
are
don't
you
have
just
my
doing
pro
pro
card. I'm
stuff?
a phony. I just compete
So,
at pro level shows without a card.
we love that. So, there's a great example. You don't need a pro card to do the big shows. Ladies,
No.
you don't need one. Anyways, excuse me. She is a amateur who has competed at several pro shows and placed top 10 in several pro shows before. Jackie, how long have you been doing strongman for?
So my first show, ironically, was back in 2019. I was still powerlifting and I just did some random show and it was somewhere in Texas. And then I went back to powerlifting. You know, COVID happened, so I just stayed with powerlifting because we had powerlifting equipment in the garage.
Mhm.
And then in 2021, I did another show at Depth before Dishonor and Lawton, and then went back to powerlifting. And then 2022 is when I said, I'm done powerlifting. I had like the perfect powerlifting meet. I went 9 for 9, totaled 1377. And I said, I'm going to just focus on strongman. And I've just been having fun with strongman since then. So,
Nice.
I know, just finished my third full year of focusing on strongman. And
Awesome.
I'm not looking back. I don't want to just squat, bench, and deadlift anymore. It's kind of
Yeah.
boring.
So how
I
long
think
did you
that's
say how
sorry.
long you're powerlifting for?
So I started powerlifting. Well, so I always lifted, right? Because I was a high school athlete, a college athlete,
Yeah.
and then when I started doing CrossFit in like 2018, one of the coaches was like, "You're really strong. Have you thought about powerlifting?" And I said, "I don't know what that is." Like, sure, I'll do it. Um, and then that's when I met Colton, and then he was like, "I've been powerlifting for 15 years," and so him and I, that's just kind of what I know with his big chest. Um,
Short little arms.
yeah, his little dinosaur arms.
Yeah.
But then like that's just what kind of like bonded us, and then just been powerlifting since 2018. And so I've just been doing strength sports, I guess, in general since 2018.
Cool. So when did you start lifting? Like 18, 17? Because if you were in like high school and college sports?
Yeah. So when I was a freshman in high school, the track coach would take us upstairs and have us lift because I threw shot put and discus. And so we would go
Nice.
and, we would go and lift with the football team. They would just kind of put us off into the corner and be like, don't
Yep.
hurt yourselves. Um,
Yep.
and then in college, I threw shot put and hammer and
Cool.
javelin. And um, we would have to lift during then too. Like our coach would be like,
Yeah.
here's your like workouts, go do them. Practices at 4, see you then. So we would go do like we would lift consistently during college and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And then I
You
didn't.
really were the trunch bowl.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Let's go.
So I just never like, even after that, like I just never stopped lifting. Like I would always go to the gym, but I
Yeah.
was just never consistent with like a program or anything. I would just go in there and do
Yeah.
like bro lifts. So I
Yeah.
really didn't start focusing.
Oh, you froze on me.
Hello, welcome
Hello.
back.
Hello. Continue. So there was
Well,
you went and lifted with the football team?
yeah, we just went and lifted with the football team. Oh, you didn't hear all that other stuff? Awesome. I love that. So we would lift with the football team in high school and then like in college, they would just, we would get a program and we would go and do it. But then after I graduated and stopped competing,
Hmm.
I just would go and do bro lifts like at commercial gyms. And I just never really focused on like building strength until
Yeah.
2018.
Okay. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because like even in high, I started lifting when I was 18. It was like I say lifting, but it was an introductory to weights. I did P90X with Mr. Tony Horton. I consider
Oh,
that lifting
yeah.
because I did get dumbbells. I didn't touch a barbell till I was 19, but still, and I was pretty focused on running because being the bigger kid, you want to not be so big because no one else is big around you. So I really focused on cardio to be small. That didn't work. That actually introduced a fetus of eating disorders, which is great. But, early 2000s, no one really knew how to deal with that. So I think that it's so interesting how, you see these people who are super competitive who they might not have gotten into pro sports, but they just continue to do athletic and competitive things because that was my train too. Like came from a competitive sports family, played ultimate frisbee in university. I liked it because I was fast and big and no one could really stop me if I had the frisbee. But then after that, it was just like, well, I don't know what's next. And I was doing CrossFit and CrossFit competitions. I didn't really want to touch powerlifting because squat, bench, deadlift seemed really boring to me. And I had really long arms, and bench was not my friend. I think when I started, my bench was maybe 65. Like it was trash. Um, so yeah, I just find that so interesting because I look at Aaron too, and the only reason he moved to strongman was because he was still so competitive in his mind because he almost made it into the CFL without his shoulder blowing up. We probably wouldn't have met. Um, so he found strongman and he was like, let's go. And now with this change of work environment and he can't do strongman anymore, he's just like meeting some bros and just seeing like what they can do. So now they're just being competitive inside of the gym. And I find that that's just something you can't turn off.
No, and I think that's the other thing too. So, like, after I was done competing in college, I coached high school sports
Right.
for 5 years. And in my mind, that was like all that there was left was now I'm just coaching. It never occurred to me that there is other types of competition like
Hmm.
powerlifting or strongman um until like I met Colton, and then I was like, oh, like there is competitions and stuff. And then
Hmm.
at our gym, I didn't know about strongman really until we had moved from the CrossFit gym I was at to Brew House, and they had some strongman equipment and they had some people there who were doing those things. And after a little bit, it was kind of like, well, that looks kind of fun. Like we should do that. And
Yeah.
so um, it just kind of went from like, obviously like what we knew with squat, bench, deadlift into dabbling
Yep.
into um, like having fun with those events. And then it just kind of took over of like, no, I like this a lot more. It's a lot more fun.
Yeah. Instead of unracking for a squat, you get under the squat and run with it. And we call that a yoke.
Yes.
Or with the deadlift, it's still a deadlift, but now you can run with it, one in each hand.
Yes, exactly. Precisely.
I think it's just for the spectrum kids.
It is the spectrum, the
They've
ADHD,
moved
because like
on.
that's the other thing too, is like we would do like these 8 to 12 week preps for powerlifting. And by like halfway through, I'm like, I'm so
Oh,
bored. Like I
yeah.
am done. And so I think that's the other part that I really like about strongman is that seriously, not one competition is the same. Even every
No.
deadlift variation, the pressing variations, even
Yep.
with yoke, I mean, like sometimes you have a turn, sometimes you don't have a turn, sometimes it's really
Yep.
heavy, sometimes it's more of like a speed yoke, which is kind of which I'm sure you're seeing as well with going from 700 pounds at OSG to now a 560. This is a
Yeah.
speed yoke,
Oh
baby.
my God.
I'm
Like
ready to
someone's
turn
gonna
and
tear a
burn.
hamstring. Oh,
Listen,
and
stuff
did you
like that.
see?
Listen, I'm going to be playing that little, what is it? What is it like the rainbow music, like on Mario Kart? That's right.
Um, it's on rubber this year. It's not on a concrete, slippery, slidey floor. I was recording just a solo gab sesh last night, and I was reading the rules so that people who listen to this podcast don't have to ask stupid questions at the Arnold.
It's gonna
Um,
happen.
I know, and
We
it's
should
on
make
a
bingo
rubber
cards.
floor. Yeah, we should bring bingo. Oh my God, dude, we should actually bring a dabber to the rules meeting at the Arnold.
Someone asks a dumb question like for like, I mean, I just think about all the questions that can I use two elbow sleeves? Why do you need two pairs of elbow sleeves, big dog? I don't get
Yeah,
it.
like use one of those robotic ones from Evolution Athletics. In my mind, they're robotic because like you can create how much tension you want. I think they're cheater wraps, but whatever.
I've never used them, so I don't know. I just have my little SBD sleeves.
I know, I do too. I use two sleeves for circus dumbbell. I put the one, I fold it in half and put it on my arm because I get bruised all the time.
Mm.
I
That's
get some
different
nasty
though than
hematomas.
trying to fit two sleeves over the actual joint. That
Yeah,
doesn't seem very comfortable to me. I don't know.
and at the same time, do you like feeling your nerves being cut off? Do you like having the sensation of no circulation going to your fingers?
No, I don't. I don't
I
know.
wonder about that. Anyways, so you've been in it for quite some time. So what's the environment of strongman like down there in Oklahoma?
So my gym's a little different, right? So the gym I'm at has a lot of high level athletes, not just strongman. We
Oh,
have a USAPL like national champion power lifter. We have a
dope.
couple high school like USAPL like national placers qualifiers. And then we have, I would say, I think we have 3 to 5 people in powerlifting who dots over 500. On top of me and on top of 6 of us who went to OSG,
Hmm.
3 top 10s, and then we have the 105 world champion Alex Sokups, which is
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
And so I think because like that environment is just high level anyways, it pushes me to be
yeah.
better. Um, there's a few up and coming strong women that are in the gym that has been
That's
nice
exciting.
because it's been just me for so long.
Yeah,
And but like having some women who are taking it a little bit more seriously um has been wonderful to kind of see that
yeah,
progress, but then also kind of give them that like encouragement of like, hey, I know it feels like you're in here by yourself because you see the guys able to train with each other.
yeah,
um but we're not here, just kind of keep going.
yeah.
In Oklahoma, like about an hour and a half south of us is the Depth Before Dishonor gym where Hannah Cold Iron
Right.
is. So we go down there and
Yep.
train sometimes. We're 3 hours north of Dallas where Battle Axe is. And so there's
Nice.
a lot of competitions, like local competitions within like a 3 mile radius that you could go north or south to.
Yeah.
As an open woman competitor, there's nobody. It's me.
No.
So
Yeah.
which I think has been the struggle as before I started to do like shows like the Shaw and OSG. I only did local shows where I knew it was me and maybe 2 or 3 other open competitors that I
Hmm.
knew I didn't have to try very hard to win. So I didn't. And then once I got to the next level show, I was like, oh, I'm really going to have to use all 60 seconds to do this. And I'm going to have to
Yeah.
actually try. So that was kind of like a big adjustment for me. But like overall, like Oklahoma and Texas got some strong people down here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So was the first big show that you did OSG 20
The
2022?
first big show. So I did the Southwest Regionals to qualify for
Okay.
OSG in Houston. That was
Okay.
in 22.
Yeah,
Yes,
22.
in 22. That's actually where I met, I think, Jocelyn. Jocelyn had gone to that. And then um, the 3 women there, it was me, Julia Hamilton, and this girl named Stephanie. And all three of us finished within half a point to a point from each other.
Okay.
And so even though it was just us three, we all three got invited. And then that
Yeah.
first year I got 12th. And so that was
Yep.
so like doing that Southwest Regionals and then OSG that year being like the first big international pro level show. Yeah.
Yep.
And that was with the
Oh.
hurricane and doing all four events in one day.
Uh,
That was terrible.
dude, I think at one point all of the Canadians just napped on the mats. Like I
Oh
think I
yeah.
started it, and then the physio that came with from Calgary, he came on the mat and he was just like, "Do you want me to take the massage gun to your back?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I gave him the massage gun. And then another Canadian came and laid beside me and they're like, "Are we just doing like a Congo line of massage gun?" I'm like, "Well, I was just here to take a nap." And he just started and he's like, "Oh, sick, I'll nap too." And then it's just like all these Canadians came to nap.
That's wonderful.
That was a wild year. Honestly, that was a really fun year for me. That was the first year that I poked into top 10, but I
Yeah.
also came in with zero expectations. I was just there to have fun. I thought I could maybe place 10th. I ended up with 7th that year, but it was a lot of fun despite the hurricanes. And that's my favorite story because we left a blizzard in Canada to come to a hurricane in Florida. So it was just a lot of fun and it was a lot of nervous people and it was like, and for me who's been to different shows, a lot of different shows, it was just chill. It's like just bring your food, you're fine. Like you can probably nap in between events because you really could. But yeah, that was a fun year. That's where we met you guys. What was your first
Yeah.
impressions of me? I'm so interested.
Um, I think I was just excited that there was another Jackie because Jackie's just
Yeah.
not, it's not a very common name anymore.
It's an old name. It's a
It
Gen X
is.
name. Did you know? Yeah.
Yes. Well, I was named after my dad's sister who's a baby boomer. So, I mean, same, but that's fine.
Mom
Um,
and dad were expecting a son and they wanted to call him Jacob, so I got Jacqueline.
yes, I think we also spell Jacqueline the same, which is different because a lot of, there's so many variations of
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline.
It's the French, it's the proper version.
Yes.
Jacqueline. Yeah.
Jacqueline. So, anyways,
Jacqueline?
um, and so I was just excited and I was like, ah, another Jackie, how wonderful. And I think that's kind of what started our like, hey, next year we have to find, like, we're still in search of our third Jackie, if any other Jackies out there.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to work on the pizza princess, but she is hard. She's holding on hard to powerlifting. Um, she's also she's strong as hell. Like she
Yeah.
squatted 463 or something I saw on Instagram, and it was like air.
Mm,
But I also think she's kind of short, so I don't think she could actually come into the open.
yeah. I mean,
But I think there
it
is
is
another
hard. It
Jackie.
is hard for us, like open
There's a
women, tall
Canadian.
queens, 6'1", 6 foot, and then
Yeah,
our open men friends like Josh, who's 5'11". It's terrible.
freaking fun. I actually think he's 5'10". He got knee surgery, so I think he actually went down to 5'10".
Ooh, you would think he would get knee
Josh
surgery to
Spurgeon let us
extend
know.
his legs. Why would he
Well,
want
you'd
to go
think.
shorter?
Well, because he's a guy and guys aren't that smart. They're just cute. They're like
Maybe he just
puppies.
wanted to be the same height as his Pookie Colton.
Oh, 5'10" besties. Cute. Well, that's
Yeah.
weird because then Aaron's definitely daddy with being 6'3".
Mm,
Hmm.
crazy.
Anyways, I'm
Anyways, yeah.
6 feet tall and little Pookie Bear's 5'10" after his knee surgery. So,
Ah, silly boys.
what were we talking about?
We were talking. Um, we
Oh,
were. What were we
Jackie's.
talking? Yes.
Jackie's. Yeah, I think there's a Jackie in Nova Scotia, actually.
Hmm.
I know. I think she's a master's though. I could be wrong. I'll have to look her up. But
Yeah.
it
Well,
would be
anyone.
exciting.
Anyways, we're still looking for a third. If anyone is
Still looking
interested,
for a third.
got to be Jackie
Yeah.
though, right?
Yep.
And then after that, I didn't really have a show. I'm trying to think.
Did you
I don't
do
think I
you did
did
the
a
Shaw
show
next
until the
year?
Shaw. I didn't do a
Yeah.
Shaw. I didn't do a show until the Shaw, and I did the 20.
OSG.
I did Shaw on the 23, which was the first time, and that was hands down. I love that show. Is fantastic. Can't wait to do it
Yeah.
again.
Same.
And then OSG again in 23, where I top 10
Hmm.
for the first time, and then 24, which we just finished, did
Hmm.
just the Shaw and OSG again.
Yeah.
And so,
I
yeah,
hope
that's
that you
what
get
I've
an
been
invite
doing.
for North Americans.
Yeah,
Because
that would be something. So right now, what I'm looking at for 24, obviously this is all TBD depending on what happens.
yeah, yeah,
So I'm currently signed up for the Arnold, obviously that
yep.
we're both going to be reunited for here at the end of February.
Yay!
Um, I also signed up for Olympic City, which is a pro-am that's in
Yep,
Colorado. It's like 3 weeks after that. I had signed up for that before the Arnold was announced as a pro-am, so I'm just
yep,
YOLOing it and doing both of
yep.
them.
Having fun.
And then the Shaw, and I'm looking at America's Strongest,
You should do that.
which is typically in October, November. Uh,
Yeah, at the
so
Olympus.
we'll just kind of have to play it by ear. But then obviously, like if I get invited to North America's or to any
Hmm.
other show that's like an invite, like I'm obviously open to looking and discussing those, seeing what
I
all of that.
hope you do get it. Honestly, I hope that whoever is picking the athletes for North Americans that they look at the OSG top 10 because you have some solid I was the only Canadian, but you have some solid American choices in that top 10. And the fact that they are the top 10 in the world, yes, I understand that not everyone was there. Guess what? You show up, you compete, the end. If you put your
That's
money where
kind
your
of like
mouth
a
is, show
conversation.
up.
That's a conversation I've had with several people. Like, for example, no one ever looks at like WSM lineups and
Mhm.
says, like, oh, for example, I'm just going to pick on Martins because he's great. But like, no one ever says, well, Martins only won in 2020 because, nobody showed up. No
Because
one
Brian
ever,
wasn't there.
yeah, no one says that.
No.
He's WSM. Like,
Or no one says about Thor, like, oh, the only reason why Hooper won is because Thor wasn't there. Well, Thor was there, wasn't he?
I mean, it
They've
doesn't
gone
matter
up
if he's
against
there
each
or
other.
not. But that's the
Exactly. It
thing.
doesn't matter.
Nobody goes back and like looks at the lineups to see, well, who was there
No,
and who wasn't there. And
no.
so to make a statement about like, oh, well, all the
Women
top
like
women
that?
weren't there, so it's really not world's strongest woman.
No. But see, here's the other thing too, is like, yes, okay, sure. There are women that should have been there, that could have been there, that weren't. That's a choice that they made. It's a title that they forfeited. And you know what? No hate on them. But just like it's no hate on them, don't hate on the other ones who have been training for this.
Absolutely. But that's similar to like, for example, when we're looking at if you're looking like equitableness, um, in in my eyes, and I think the majority of people, when you're looking at the rosters for this Rogue Pro Arnold, the Rogue Invitational,
Yeah,
you're looking at like the men where you're talking about like Mitch Hooper,
right.
uh, Thor, Lucas Hatton, all these guys who are in this league, and then you're still looking at the women like
Mhm.
Inez, Sam, Andrea, all of these other women who are the same level. No one complained about Mitch
Yeah.
Hooper not showing up to OSG to compete.
Yeah. Well, and like the first year you and I competed together, Andrea was on the podium.
Right.
So like and then the next year, 2023 was Andrea was
She went
decided
down
to
to
go into
Masters.
masters,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was wise for her just because I don't know. Anyways, we'll move on from that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like we all compete against these people. Like when I was competing against Rebecca this year, she only won by 5. It wasn't a landslide.
Right.
So in that same breath, you could say like all these people definitely have rights to be up there. It's just who is chosen. And that's again not on the athletes, that is on the person giving the invites. And I think it's ridiculous to say, well, trying to find a place where these people qualified. What I think was really cool, we watched the latest Brian Shaw video of
Yes,
how
I
he
was
was
going to bring
picking
that up.
his
Yeah.
yeah, and he was just like, this is how we're picking it. It's just like, thank you for being so transparent. But like, with that said, people need to stop justifying where these people are getting the invites for the Arnold and just say that the promoters don't know anyone else. I think that's fair to say, and I don't think it's anything against the promoters or the athletes. I just think that there's people who compete with these top level people who are saying, well, I also am good too. I'm also deserving to be in that spotlight because we compete side by side. I beat Olga in Farmers 3 years ago, and that's an event that like I almost edged out Olga in the sandbag wheelbarrow in at the Shaw, and like she only beat me by 2 seconds. Like there's a lot of things where you rub shoulders with these people, and everyone's like, well, they deserve it because they were here. No, no, let's stop playing that game.
Well, but I mean, similarly, like for example, if you even look at like the Rogue Invitational, like they had a max deadlift in there. How many
Hmm.
women, like you're talking, like you can even talk about like Jennifer Lyle or me, who can
Yeah.
deadlift over 600
Or
pounds.
Cherry.
Yeah, or Cherry for sure. Like,
Yeah.
there are different there are women who haven't had that opportunity yet. And I understand, I also understand in the grand scheme
It's
of
a
things, this is
business.
also a business.
Yep,
Right.
for sure.
So I do understand that certain people, men or women, are gonna get
Yeah.
invites because it's a business.
Yeah.
Um, but like also like when we're just talking about, oh well, they've just always been invited. Well,
Yeah.
maybe there's some up and coming people who want it more than they do.
Yeah, well, and I think what people, honestly, I'm really, really happy that Rogue answered the call when everyone was like, why are they there? When they started questioning, and they weren't, for clarity, for those people who are still confused, people online who were questioning why someone was invited, they weren't questioning the athlete. They were just questioning
Yeah.
the organization itself. That's not to shit on the athlete. That is to say, where is your system? We want to know the system because this is a big paycheck. This is, and if I'm giving up my free time, and then there's the argument of, and I'll come back to that, but there's the argument of, oh, well, we do this because we love the community. We love seeing each other. Yes, but when I give up family time, friend time, when I give up all of these things, when my life literally revolves around 40 to 75 hours of work a week, 20 to 30 hours of training, and the rest of the time I'm eating and sleeping, and I don't have a social life. My only social life is at the gym, but I'm not involved in the communities I used to be involved in anymore because I'm so high level. When you're talking about me giving up all of these things plus what's in my bank account to get there, I'm looking for a paycheck now. Consider myself a serious athlete. I'm sleeping like an athlete, I'm eating like an athlete, and I'm doing the best I can to train like an athlete and mitigate the little stresses that happens in my workday just so that I can train. So us serious people who take this, it's not a joke to us. We've been through the ringer and we're like, yeah, this is good. We're good at this. We want to be paid too. Because like we're not the NFL, we're not the NBA, like we don't have a government inside of itself. It's kind of a contracted free for all, if you will, if you look at it from a business perspective. So I think that you're seeing a lot of people who are up and coming who are matching these big monsters who are already invited. And it's like this Arnold Pro Am is a chance to prove that, yeah, while you're watching the pro stage, come and watch us because we're going to rep out 560 for 14.
Right. Which, and like, I mean, because like, there's there's the max log event as well. And,
Hmm.
I'm
Yep.
expecting to see at
300
least,
go up.
oh yeah, I'm expecting to see at least one person hit over
Yep.
300 and 2 to 3 others hit high twos for
Well,
sure.
who hit more than 2 reps at 240 at the OSG?
I think Katie Blunden she's from Australia. I think she hit
Yep.
3 because she won that.
Okay.
And I'm a creep
Yeah.
and I've creeped her Instagram.
She's a cutie.
I think she's gotten close to a 300 log. She split jerks too, which um
So she did
I think
240. She did 240 3 times.
yeah.
Okay, so then her estimated 1 rep max would be 121.2 kilos, which is
I need American unit.
266.6. So
Okay.
like I feel like Katie could
But
is
I think
3 months
hit
enough
more than that.
time?
I think she's hit close to like 280.
Well, that's just an estimated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But and yeah, like competition, everything's so much different. Like you really don't the goal is never really to go into a competition to PR. Like if you do, that's incredible and that's awesome. But and like I PR'd on the Stones, but I looked at that weekend as what have I done in the past and what do I want to do in the future? Like
Yeah.
the time where like I popped my clavicle out of place in 2022 under the yoke. I finished in 33 seconds, and this time my only goal was to beat my old time, and I did.
Right.
And if I didn't drop it, I would have gotten it in 13 seconds, but still, like, my goal was just to beat my old time. So I think if you go in with that attitude, then competition becomes fun and friendly. I
Right,
think
but I think
that's just me.
that's a similar outlook that like you and I have talked about in general is like
Yeah.
obviously like my goal, let's say for example, for the Arnold, my goal I want to win. Like I want to
Yep.
win. And but in order for me to win, I need to do my best. And
Yep.
so but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like I want everyone to do poorly. I want everyone to come in and do their best. So
Yeah.
I know that my best beat everyone else's best. But if my
Yep.
best doesn't beat everyone else's best, like I'm still happy. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
for example, with OSG, I wanted to go in and I wanted to make sure I hit the 240 for one. I wanted to hit
Yep.
it for two. And I think 240, like when I look back at the video, 240 went up so easy that it kind of was like,
Yeah.
oh, like that was
Yeah.
weird. And
That
then,
log cleaned so easy.
yes. And
It
so
was
it
a
was like,
smooth log.
which I guess is nice. And then similarly for the deadlift, I had only hit it for like one. I attempted doubles multiple times, and I never could get more than one. And I hit it for three, and I was like, cool. Like I was super excited about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm always going and looking to see how can I improve on what I did in training or in
Yes.
past comps and like if it's a
Yeah.
similar setup, but not necessarily like I know that I can hit 5 reps and you can hit six. So I hope that you have an off day like that. I don't think
Yeah.
having that kind of malicious attitude is, appropriate.
I
I think
agree.
we can all go in and just do our best. And like, I hope my best is good enough to beat
Yeah.
everyone else's best. Then that's where we're
Well,
at.
exactly. And like for the log, for the deadlift, I pulled 455 7 times because I didn't get a suit in time. And that whole block was when Aaron was working abroad. Like, I think he had a stint of, he had 2 4-week stints, and then he had 2 weeks off, and then a stint of 5 weeks gone. So, like, I trained alone for pretty much the entire block for OSG. So it's like, well, if I get a suit, who's going to help me in? Like, I'm going to have to figure this out on my own because I go to a bodybuilder gym, and if I run into the power lifters, they're either there late at night or early in the morning. So no one really knows about a suit. Um, so it was like, screw it, we ball. Like, so I just put on
Right.
my compression shorts, and like I repped out 555 for 7, which is a big PR. And now
Yeah.
my estimated is 560. So, and
Gee.
on a trap bar, there it's way easier. And like I feel like you have another 100 pounds in you on a trap bar. It's so simple.
Right.
But for so I PR'd that deadlift, but comparing to the other girls, I came in 10th in that event.
Right. I
But
mean,
for
but that's
me,
the
I
other thing too.
crushed it.
Like, for example, I mean, like I was talking about it with Lucy a little bit because, like, before the comp,
Hmm.
she was asking about the weights. And of course, like
Yep.
Lucy, deadlift queen over here,
Yep. Shout out.
560, 4 reps on an axle bar. And she's like, that is really heavy. And so to see,
Lucy.
I think Jennifer won that. I think
Yep.
Jennifer or Cherry. Jennifer did. And Jennifer didn't pull with the
Mm,
suit either.
I know. She raw dogged it.
She did raw. She said raw is the law. Um, and but like I think she hit what six or 7 reps
Yep.
at 560, and it's
Did
like
Cherry only hit 5 or 6?
I think so. And then I
Yeah.
think Ellie hit 4 or 5.
Yep.
But like I honestly did not know. I thought 5 for sure was gonna win. And to
Yeah.
see that many reps is what's going on. I think similarly for, I mean, even for the 240 log, I was surprised. So for example, like I was surprised that hitting 240 on the Trump log for one tied me for fifth. And the
That's
same for
crazy.
and the same for the deadlift. I hit 3 on the deadlift and tied for fifth on the deadlift too. And so like it's crazy to think about like in what world is that a tie for
Oh
fifth?
man. I
But
really,
when
Aaron and I
we're
talked
just
about
getting so
this.
strong, like
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
and
the other thing too. When you look at similarly, we were talking about like with the open men. I think
hmm,
the open men's weight for the axle was 820.
820,
I think so.
820.
Colton, how much was the axle for the men? 820. Yeah, it was 820 for reps. They've
Yeah.
never done that weight at like a
Nope.
pro men's level show.
No.
And
Well, what was the weight at WSM? Yell
I
at
think it was
Colton and ask him.
780.
What? What?
Mm-hmm.
Are you seriously gonna tell me that these boys and like I think man, top 10 men was such a fun thing to watch, just like the women, because it for the men especially, it was so tight in points. Like what was it,
Right.
2 points separated top five?
Oh yeah. I mean,
It
and
was
that but
wild.
that's part of like what's crazy. And I think even after like if you just look at the up and coming athletes in general,
Yep.
and like you can use the men as like the I guess like the example. There were how many in the whole open med there were from what I was told, I think there was five previous WSM
Yeah.
competitors
Yep.
and only
They want back in.
two of them made top 10. You know, Bryce Johnson came in what, the second or third,
Yep.
and
Remick.
Spencer Remick came in eighth.
Yep.
And
That's
part of
crazy.
his like recap was like, if I had, he was like, he had basically said
Yeah.
like, if there was this level of competition when he like had won OSG or had podiumed, like he wouldn't have it wouldn't have been the same. It's not even close. There's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many hungry competitors. And I think that's one of the things that we're looking for, like kind of tying back in what you said earlier. People want to know how to get there.
Yep.
There are some very clear cut things for the men, like winning the Shaw Classic and going to the SMO and proving yourself, with
Yep.
OSG top three going to Giants Live. Um, and then now we have the Arnold, that's for sure getting you into that
Yep.
pro series. Where is, besides the Arnold,
Yeah.
Arnold Pro Am getting you into that road show? What else is there for the women, for other women who want to know, how do I get there? How do I
Well, and
get
they're
to those
used
invite
to.
only shows?
There used to be a pathway, and I used to do the pathway. Um, and then Dion retired, and then the pathway ended. The pathway was SWU, Strongest Woman in the World. So Strongest Woman in the World, I went to Norway in 2018, and I went to Palmer, Alaska in 2019. And of course, small, right? It wasn't well advertised, it wasn't televised, nothing. But for us, it was like it was the Strongest Woman in the World title back then.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire podium got invites to the Arnold, and it was an open weight class just like it is now. But then there was also Arnold Spain, number one, got an invite. And then there was the Arnold in March, and I think the podium got a re-invite. So those girls didn't have to come back again. But like there was a pathway and I tried to get there, but like I was just a tiny little pipsqueak both times. And like
Right.
I couldn't make it work, especially up against Olga. Like the first time I saw Olga, we passed each other in the hotel hallway in Norway, and I was like, oh my God, it's her. And I was like, hi. And she was like, hello. And I'm like,
That
you're
was a good
so cool.
impression.
What was that?
I said that was a good impression.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, there was a pathway. So I think that Rogue is going to have to come up with a pathway again, because I think you really do have a lot of hungry athletes at the bit to try and get on the Rogue circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And not to
Yeah.
call it a circuit, but like, when you get invited to the main Arnold, the Arnold UK, and then the Invitational, to us, it looks like a circuit. So I might be
Right.
wrong in that, and I'm willing to be wrong, but that's what it looks like.
Well, and then, but I think that's similar. Like, if you look at even like the pro men's circuit, like including all
Hmm.
the Giants live shows, which it is understandable that there are more Giants live shows for men than for women because that's where it's all began. But
Yeah,
let's start introducing more of like the
yeah,
women's shows, because it's clear that the people will watch it, the people want to
yeah,
see it. Um, but the roster of like, I mean, they've got 20, 30 plus men, and then we're
yeah,
talking about the same 10 to 12 women,
yeah,
when
literally.
there is similar women in different events who have the same, I guess, like you could say like repertoire, that
Yeah.
have that ability to be there and compete.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I honestly, I think, I think there's enough upper level of us. Like if you take the top 10 from OSG and the 10 or 12. You know what? Probably 10. Because if you combine them, like, because Rebecca and Jennifer are both competing at the Arnold Pro, and so that would
Hmm.
make 12. So if I'd say the top 20 women in the world right now, the ones going to the Arnold Pro and the ones who top 10 at OSG, that could be a really insane World's Strongest Woman 3-day comp. That could be
Do you start
insane.
including any of the like 82 or 73 women? Because, like, I mean, right
Well,
now that there are some, right? Because you've got Nadia and Aaron.
yep.
Nancy is no one's fool either. Like, she whooped
Oh
my butt at the
Lord.
Shaw. Like,
Yep.
I mean, so there are some 82 and 73 women that if they're
Yeah.
competing in open and they don't have to cut,
Oh, they're
they're
good.
they're
But see,
sneaky.
here's the thing though, is the only invite you can get is through the open. And that's why people like Summer Johnson are coming, because she's traditionally middleweight. So all of these women who compete open, they could by all that's how Erin got her invite to the Arnold
Right.
last year. So like you could step up and you could qualify for the open weight class and come and do it. And so there's nothing stopping you. So I don't think that that's really a conversation. I think the conversation is, well, if you want it, then go and compete, go and do it. Less talk, more action. But I think that if you combine the top 10 from the Arnold and from OSG, I think you could have a really cool and fun World's Strongest Woman to watch. And I think you'd have a lot of surprises for different events, right?
I think so too. And I think that's one of the things as well, if you look at it. Obviously, I think you have outliers like
Yeah.
Mitch Hooper, Tom Stoltman, Thor, who are going to be in that top three range
They're in their
almost
own
always.
competition. Yep.
But when you start looking at like all these different events and stuff, when you're talking about, is it a max versus for reps? Is it, are you instead of a yoke, what if it's farmers? What if it's frame? Because people
Mhm.
think, oh, it's a moving event. Well, not necessarily either,
No.
because just because someone's good at
Yeah.
frame doesn't mean that they're necessarily good at yoke or vice versa. And so
Yep.
I think that's one of the other things that I like about strongman is, depending on the event variation,
Yep.
you're going to get a different result almost every time. Instead of a
But
log, what if it was a circus dumbbell?
yep. Yep. And here's the thing too is if we are given the same amount of time with the same amount of information, that's the perfect test because now we all see how we've all prepped for it. We can all see what we've had to do differently, like we all knew ahead of time what the events for OSG were. So
Right.
it's a matter of controlling the controllables and then really exasperating on the things you're good at.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. As you could probably tell, me and Jackie Rhodes were not done jabbering away. And you'd be correct on that. There is a part 2 coming next week. And next week, we're going to be deep diving into the ladies of the Pro-Am who are going to be competing in the Open at the Arnold on Instagram. We're going to be giving you our thoughts on these ladies. We're going to be telling stories of ladies we've competed with. And in general, we're just going to keep talking. Jackie has a lot of things to say. Which Jackie? You'll have to listen to find out. Until next week, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode. Maybe go ahead and listen to other episodes if you haven't. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, please shoot me a DM at the Strongwoman Chronicles on Instagram or on YouTube. More than happy to receive feedback. Until next week, you guys have a great upcoming week, and I can't wait to be in your ears next Sunday. Bye!